Welcome to this week's edition of 26 Minutes With. It's the show that honors those who are leading, making an impact, and creating positive change on the planet and locally. I'm your host, David Cohen, and I'm really pleased to have this week's guest with us, Ondra Nemcik, right? I'm pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Ondra was born in a small town in Czech Republic in a working class family. Ondra struggled a lot with severe social anxiety and being bullied as a kid. He couldn't go to therapy, so he had to find a way to help himself. And after Googling, we didn't have that in our day, how to be happy at 13 years old, he discovered the world of self-education and personal development, and he became obsessed. Now, after 9 years, he was able to turn his life around completely, develop huge confidence, and started to share his journey with others while he was traveling the world. Ondra is helping youth entrepreneurs live their passion and do what they love, and assisting others how to be happy too. Ondra, good day, man. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. So I want to talk first about being bullied and what you went through to survive that. Because, it's not easy being on the other end of somebody with rage, anger, and hate in their heart.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was definitely difficult times because also you don't really understand what you did wrong and why they're hating on you so much and why they're making fun of you and picking on you. I was, well, kind of lucky that I wasn't really bullied physically too much. And I wasn't in the worst place in our class. I remember there was a guy who had much more severe bullying. For me, it was mostly like mental and emotional, but they didn't really, hurt me physically, whereas there was other people. So it could have been worse. That's how I want to say. But still, it wasn't easy and definitely made my school years a lot more difficult. And now I kind of look at it as in it made me stronger, like I remember it as very hard times and just being picked on every day and being called names and for where I was from, and also because I was from a poor family and my mom was a cleaning lady, so like, hey, you loser, your mom is cleaning our toilets and that kind of stuff. So it definitely wasn't easy. And yeah, it taught me a lot about other people when I started kind of understanding of like why are they even bullying me, why are they picking on me, because I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't do anything to them. So that started to teach me a lot. So while now I look at it as when it was very, very hard, it made me understand better and it made me stronger.
So as you understood better, as you look back, on your perpetrator or maybe perpetrators, what do you feel they were going through inside them to be, for lack of a better word, to be a real badass to you?
Right. Yeah. So I would say it's mostly like insecurities that usually it comes down to I'm not good enough, so I cannot be loved. And I want to create this facade of I'm a strong person, I'm a badass, or I'm gonna create that persona by picking on people who are weaker than me physically, or they look smaller. I was a very small and skinny kid. It took me a while to grow up, so I was an easy target. So they usually do it to make themselves feel better. And I think about it now, like they may probably had a very tough time at home, right? Or maybe they were like, oh, I need to live up to my potential or to the standards of my rich parents, for example, and that's why they were picking on me, because I was poor and they were more in the families that were more well off. So maybe there was a pressure from the parents or from how they grew up. And ultimately, I don't really know. Maybe they, were beaten up at home, so they were taking it out on me. So that we never know, and they are usually pretty good at hiding it, right? But it's always like fear, insecurities, or something very bad happening to them, and they pass it on because they don't know how to deal with it better.
Yeah, and that's a big lesson for any of us who have to, even adults have to maybe work with a bully, or that it's not about you, it's about them, right? Um,
Yeah.
what were some of the mental emotional side effects then for you at the time, Ondra, from being bullied? What were the side effects for you? What state were you in?
Well, I felt like I was worthless. I was the one to be kicked around, well, metaphorically speaking, and the one to be just made fun of. And I was the weak one who was literally the nerd and who couldn't really do anything, who couldn't be one of the popular kids, quote unquote, or who couldn't really speak to people. And deeper into that, it caused me to have more social anxiety, right? Because I was already struggling to speak out, and then these other people come out and make fun of you all the time. So whenever you say anything, so that makes you want to say even less. So it made my severe anxiety even worse, and that ultimately caused a lot of suicidal thoughts. Even like I absolutely hated myself. I hated my life, and not just school life, and but the strict life at home, which is a different part of that we can go into a little bit deeper.
Sure.
Um, yeah, so it definitely caused a lot of emotional trouble into I'm not good enough and I will never be enough and no matter what I do. So I better probably just end my life.
In your bio, you said like you couldn't afford therapy. Do you feel the
Yes.
school system in Czech Republic was helping kids who were getting bullied at school? Would
Um,
Were they helpful?
people people tried, but they were not really helpful. And we did have a school psychologist, but I remember she came in, I think a couple years later, after I was already studying all this by myself. So when I came across with her, and then we were more like kind of just having interesting conversations because I already understood a lot of this and I did a lot of work on myself at this time. So maybe when she entered the school, it helped a little bit. And I remember her as being like super friendly, super great person to talk to. But before that, teachers would try a little bit, but then everybody was scared to even talk to the teachers. And even if you did go to the teacher, like I said, I remember one specific moment that in this instance, the bullies weren't really going after me, but they were going after this other guy who had it worse. And I was just like, I don't even want to be here. And I left the classroom and I went to go somewhere, but I was too scared at the time. I was still too scared to go to the teachers and tell them because you don't know what they're going to do to you, right? If they find out, hey, this was the guy who told, and they saw me leave the class.
Yeah.
And I remember when I came back, they already went after me. Hey, did you go to tell the teacher like you're and calling me names and all this? Like, why would you do that? Like, it's just having fun. It's just right. And I was like, I didn't tell anybody, but it's just not fun. I just wasn't gonna be here to tolerate it, so I just left. I went outside on the hall and I was just chilling there with other people.
And
And I
you're
remember that, So
and you're under 13.
yes,
Wow. Um, you had to be really self-reliant in your own healing journey. Like, where did that come from? How were you able to access that inner wisdom that you had at a young age to be able
right.
to
This is where, yeah, sorry. This is where I think a lot of my mom came in with how she raised me and how she taught me, which was very, very, very strict and super scheduled, and everything was super strict. So on one side, it was also very causing a lot more like, oh, and there was some physical punishments and doing all sorts of things, like very, very strict, almost like military. For after a while we started calling her the general, my mom. But yeah, but that helped in a way that it taught me to be self-reliant, taught me to be disciplined, taught me to find solutions. And there was one specific thing that my mom did that really I think made big difference into basic everything and into how my mind works. And funny enough, it was a video game. And it was a video game, not as in for fun or something like this. It was a very, very logical video game where we had to, and this is where her strict general kind of attitude also came in. It was so hard that we would sit and for hours, like 4 to 5 hours, trying to solve this puzzle, right? This logical problem. And I remember I absolutely hated it at the time, and I was still asking her, like, why do I have to do this? Why are you making me do this? And she would also always say, it's brightening your brain. And as a kid, you don't know what that means, right? But now looking back, it taught me, well, real life problem solving, meaning go out there, figure out how things work, what things do, how things work, and find the solution, right? And oh, you run into a problem, okay, find the solution again. This is a problem, it set you back, okay, find the solution. And so and we started playing this video game very, very early, maybe at age 8 or something, right? So again, how technology helped us, and how my mom taught me how to use technology in a healthy way, and learn something from it. So that really taught me like super concrete problem solving skills. So that was what helped me. That was what I was able to apply for my real life situation. I didn't know it at the time, but my mind really started working like that. Okay, so I went, okay, this is my problem. How can I solve it? What can I do about it? And I kind of knew there must be something to do about it, because that's what I was taught in the game. Oh, you feel like there's no solution? Find it. There is a solution somewhere out there. And it doesn't matter whether you find it yourself, or you look for other people and you talk to other people. I remember there were like forums and stuff where we would talk to other people how they solve the problem, and ask for tips and stuff, right? So it taught me a lot about real life problem solving skills, which I didn't understand at the time. Now looking back, I understand it very clearly. And the discipline of it and the consistency of it, as just sitting for hours and hours and hours on end, really went deep into my brain. Like, you don't give up on this, and you actually, when you need to figure something out, you do. So that's what I used, and that's what helped me with every single problem that I was facing from then on, to go out there and find a solution.
And you did at 13. You
And
Googled
I did.
how to be happy. But where are you at now with your mom? Are you at a place of peace with her, or?
Yes, we are definitely at a place of peace. We don't talk too much, especially because I'm halfway across the globe. But yeah, so with her, the problems started a little bit later, when I started thinking about dropping out of school and doing my own thing. That's when she really disagreed, because she wanted me to stay in school, get the degree, get the diploma, all these things. So that's when the issues kind of started a little more escalating, where we started disagreeing a lot. And then once I moved out, and I moved to a different country, and I was just coming back, maybe for 2 weeks in a couple months, that it calmed down again. Because, well, when you have only 2 weeks with your kid, or I have 2 weeks with my mom, and I know I'm going to be gone for another half a year, so that makes it a lot easier. Like, hey, we don't want to fight, so we're not going to talk about the things that we disagree on, but we would always just talk about, other things. So that made the relationship lot smoother, by having that little bit of a distance. And now, as she sees, that it's working out for me, and that I didn't throw my life away, that I do actually help people a lot, even though she doesn't express it much. I know that she's proud, and that she's, cheering me on quietly, and I'm very grateful for everything she did and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, and
So yeah.
it's funny I'm going to be facetious a little bit. For a lowly cleaning lady that you got picked on for, she's a pretty smart woman.
Yeah.
And what I heard in that, wanting you to go to school, is she didn't want you to be like her.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah. Were you able to forgive these perpetrators in school, like the bullies in school? When did you come to a place of forgiveness for them?
That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly about the timeline when the forgiveness came around. There was definitely a lot of anger and a lot of frustration at first, that I was able to turn, like, almost even against them, and then eventually I was able to, like, stand up to them, and they never, bothered me ever again after that.
Good.
But the forgiveness came maybe a couple years after that. I think maybe around 3 or 4 years later, after I was already, like, deep into studying personal development, and doing all these things. And then I started understanding like, hey, if that didn't happen, then I wouldn't be here. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't understand these things that I understand now, and I wouldn't have the opportunities that I have now, and I would have never probably built the confidence to the level that I have now. So that's when it started turning almost into not just forgiveness, but also into gratefulness, just like I have with my mom. Is I'm like, I don't know, for people it sounds weird sometimes when I say this, and especially if they don't really understand this mindset a lot yet. And when I say, hey, I'm grateful that I used to be bullied, they're like, what are you talking about? Right? But yeah, so a couple years, it took a couple years, definitely, maybe 4 to 5 years since I started learning about all of it, then I was able to turn it into that. But at first it was a lot of anger that I used definitely to be more motivated as well. So
Yes. Yeah. So you used your anger for good. Now you left home at an early age, right?
well, relatively early age. I left home when I was 20,
Okay.
21, actually, 21. So not super, super early.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you had the wherewithal, the intelligence, the desire to study. Like what kind of kid goes on Google learning how to be happy? Like what happened after that? You took life into your own hands, and like what made you first of all look up how to be happy, and what unfolded from there?
Right. Yeah. So what made me look it up was definitely like a place of desperation.
Hmm.
And it came from somewhere like in the back of my head, probably that problem solving thing, hey, look for a solution that was somewhere deep in there. And I remember it was one day when I had like a really bad day and I was literally crying in my bed and thinking like, how can it be so bad? Like, why is everything here so bad? And I thought, hey, like there has to be a way to live a better life. There has to be a way to be happier. And well, I thought, okay, maybe for other people it comes natural, but I'm just gonna try and look it up. So I did, and I was almost surprised. I remember being surprised how much I found about how to be happy because I didn't know that it was out there. Nobody ever told me before, right? And the interesting thing about this is as I like operate in this field and I speak to a lot of young people who used to get bullied as well, had some other mental issues. Actually, surprisingly, a lot of people look how to be happy. They Google these things. But for me, it worked. Whereas for most people, it doesn't really work in a way that you find the answers, but you don't use them and you don't have enough discipline to actually push yourself. So that's where it comes into like what happened before this and what happened after, right? So what happens after, you find all these articles, for example, you find these videos and you get steps. I remember there was a website called WikiHow, and it was literally step by step how to be happier, right? Step number one, do this. Step number two, do this. Step number three, do this. And I actually went out and did it. And I remember a couple of the first steps, you have to be stronger physically. So I was like, okay, I have to be stronger physically. I'm super weak. So I have to start working out. And I did, right? Whereas most people, when they find this, they either do it for 2 weeks or less, they maybe do it for one day and then drop off.
Yeah.
Or maybe they say, no, I tried that. Or they don't really implement it. They just read it and that's it. Or watch the video and that's it. For me, it was different because I think why it was different is because I was in a such bad place where I didn't see a different option. For me, it was very binary, and I remember this clearly because I remember thinking I either change right now or I'm gonna end up taking my life. So it
Mhm.
was very binary, or it was I either change or I kill myself. And at the time, I knew that I didn't want to kill myself, but I knew I didn't want to live like this anymore. And one of the things that I did, one of the first things is I literally, after that Google search, I think probably the same day, I created the first journal. I have a journal. I'm very big on journaling. I have a
Yeah.
fancy one now, but back then it was just a piece of paper or whatever. And on the first page, I wrote in huge letters across the big page, I will do everything in my power to become happy in the future. So I made that super strong commitment Whereas, and then after I started implementing the new habits that I learned and the new mindsets that I learned, I failed many times, just like everybody else. But
Sure.
because I made that commitment and I made the decision of I'm going to do whatever it takes, that's when I followed through. And it took me a long, long, long time. You know, like I say to people, like between the age of 13 to age of 15, all I was really doing different was going for a run in the mornings, doing some extra push-ups, and learning, like consuming more of these ideas about videos of personal growth and confidence and communication and psychology. And that was all I was doing for about 2 years, and it compounded. But I stuck to it. I remember very clearly the first 2 years of trying to go for a run every morning. It was very hard, and I failed many times. You know, I find myself, oh my God, I didn't go for a run for 2 weeks again. And I would beat myself up over it and then get up and try it again, you know? So it was very, very hard. But because I made that commitment, and really was for me like, I either change what I'm doing every day or I'm giving up. And I didn't want to give up.
And who were the teachers that spoke to you back then?
So one, I remember a YouTube channel. It was called Improvement Pill. I think it still works. And then so two YouTube channels: Practical Psychology and Improvement Pill. And then the website WikiHow. So the WikiHow was mostly just text, like written. I don't know who the authors who are or any of this, but it spoke to me. It was very simple. It was laid out in step by step. That spoke to me a lot. And then the Improvement Pill and the Practical Psychology, I didn't know who these people were because they never showed their face. It was animated videos. So
Okay.
as a kid, I yeah, these animated videos, like it was drawings. So those spoke to me, and it was very, yeah, like practical psychology, right? So that's what I need. That's what I wanted to know. Yeah, so those are the two YouTube channels that I remember I was watching early on, and then I transferred to some other people who were also showing their face and speaking to camera like this. But
Yeah.
firstly, it was just, yeah, animated videos, because that was, I think mostly it wasn't because there was no face, but it was just what I found at first.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
came across these two first. Yeah.
Um, when you made that commitment and you made that choice, Ondra, to be happy and to do whatever it took, as you journaled, what shifted in your life? Like, did the bullying calm down? Did the relationship with your mom calm down? Like, what was the immediate sort of result over those, at least those 2 years that you were really
Oh, okay.
working
So with my mom, with my mom, funny enough, it got more weird because one day she caught me waking up at 5 a.m. and going for a run. And that was my kind of vehicle of how I was going to build more confidence and like my habit, right? And she caught me, and she didn't know. I didn't tell anybody. I was kind of ashamed as well. And I didn't tell anybody at first. And she caught me because she was, I think she was late for work or something. She was like, "What are you doing up so early? You should sleep more. So you know, sleep is important." I'm like, "Well, I'm going for a run." Like, what are you, crazy? Go back to sleep, you know? So that's when it started getting kind of weird because I went outside of what she thought was normal. But she didn't really care much, and I did it. I kept doing it anyway. I don't really remember specifically why or how it happened, but I really linked in my brain, hey, waking up at 5 a.m. and going for a run, no matter if I feel like it or not, is gonna be my ticket out of this bad place. And maybe after I did it like a couple times, it made my whole day just better. You know, I felt better about myself and I felt stronger. And I did something that was really, really hard that I didn't want to do. So I thought, okay, like this is gonna be it. And well, this is a fact that I remember. I when I said I'm gonna go running, I was looking forward like into the future a little bit, and I said when I'm gonna be doing this consistently, I can tell people I'm the guy who's waking up at 5 a.m. and going for a run. I didn't know anybody like David Goggins at the time. I didn't really know anybody else who was doing it. But I thought, oh my God, that's gonna make me so cool and so strong, right? Like, because who does that? Nobody does that. Only the I thought like, yeah, it's gonna show how strong I am mentally that I can get up at 5 a.m. every day and go for a run. And I thought that would make me very, very cool and like a badass almost, right? So I was like, no, this is gonna be my ticket out of this depression and out of this being weak. And that's why I stuck with it, even when people are saying that I was crazy. And what happened, well, immediately is, yeah, like I felt hope, I felt like, okay, finally I'm doing something. And that was almost immediate, as in like I felt like I'm making progress. Finally, I'm making progress after years of being stuck. I'm at least changing something. I'm doing something for myself. But that was basically it. I still didn't tell anybody. I was still very shy. I was still very insecure. But slowly it was compounding. And after those 2 years, that was when it like really compounded to the point when I was like, okay, I can stand up for myself. I can speak out. I can go try and be more extroverted as well, and go out more instead of keeping it all for myself.
Yeah. Did you have any mentors at all back then? Anybody like helping you on your journey?
It was all just random technology and random YouTube channels that I found. Like I mentioned, these practical psychology and improvement pill, but it wasn't like that I was speaking to someone. No.
Okay. I find it really fascinating. You know what you were doing really essentially, and this is a lot of leaders and thought leaders and authors talk about it. You were doing a morning ritual.
Yes.
Like I don't know if you've read Hal Elrod or you know him, but he wrote The Miracle Morning, and that's
Yeah.
about getting up at 5 and meditating and journaling, which you do, and exercise all before like 6 a.m. And by doing that in the morning first thing, it sets the tone for the rest of the day. So you are actually like doing sort of major things that all the sort of self-help gurus out there do. So I find that really really fascinating. And I like the fact that 2 years and it took that time and the dedication. And yeah, you fall off for a couple of weeks. I think we all fall off exercising throughout the year. Like we do it and then we might have a period, maybe we don't for a week, things like that. But I really like the fact that you were just you just it took you 2 years and then the shift compounded and started to happen. And what I feel is you after that you went on your own hero's journey, Ondra, basically, eh?
Yeah.
Left
Yeah.
and you went to now you're in um Malaysia, right? And
Yeah.
you were just in Cambodia and you started to travel and seek, right?
Yeah.
So for those listening, you're listening to 26 Minutes with. I am your host, David Cohen, and with us is our guest, Ondra Nemcik. And we're talking about surviving bullying and having the courage to choose something better, which you did. So, Ondra, when we continue with the deeper dive version of 26 Minutes with next, I want to talk about this hero's journey because essentially you left home to seek out a new life and discover you.
Yeah.
Okay with that?
Yeah. Let's
All
let's do it.
all right. Now, before we do it, I want to thank you for being a guest on 26 Minutes with, and also thank those who are listening. Ondra, before we end this segment, where do we reach you to learn more?
Okay, so you can go to my link tree. There's everything there. If you need one place, you can find literally everything there. I can send you the link so you can put it in
Yeah,
the notes or something.
I
And then,
will.
of course, if you just look up my name on other places, you can
Yeah.
find me on Instagram, Facebook. But really, just go to that one place, link tree, and there's everything there.
Okay. Yeah. Send it to me, and then we'll put it in the text
Yes.
of our on YouTube. I put it on YouTube, Facebook, Acast, and LinkedIn. But if you Google Ondra, Ondra, and then Nemcik is NEM as in Mary, CIK. So well worth checking this young man out. All right, when we come back, we're going to go into the deeper dive next. Stay with us. I'll be right back. Whoop. I want to stop recording. That's what I want to do. Man, you do this. Be a host. This technology stuff, Anyway. All right, there we go. We're coming back with a deeper dive next. You know what? I thought I'd share the mistakes we make as host.